And we'll go through it line by line, but the TLDR is that CCP wants to combine the PLEX market into one global market rather than a regional market like everything else that is that's how it is today. So as you guys know, EVE Online today, basically all trade is region based, so you can't see orders from other regions in the game client. You have to go outside of the game client to other tools. And you also can't trade across regions. And while Plex is a little bit different, while Plex has a global Plex wallet where you can store and move your Plex anywhere, you can deposit it and take it out anywhere. If you want to sell it or trade it on the market, then you have to sell it at a specific point, and the buyer has to be in that region to buy it as well. So what that means is that's a little bit of market inefficiency where there can be price differences, which, you know, for traders is a positive as well as or it's always a positive. Price difference is always something to be exploited, but it's a negative for, I guess, people that don't quite understand how the market works and that are maybe new or that you know, can't be bothered to check prices, etc., etc. And it's also an inefficiency in terms of availability. So most Plex is traded in JITA, and so we have seen, especially lately, the amount of Plex on sale has dropped dramatically over the last few years, and so there's just not a lot of Plex available. And whenever there's a big sale going on, like for example a 2-for-1 extractor sale in the New Eden store that requires Plex, then we often face the issue of JITA running dangerously close to running out of Plex and prices spiking, which then doesn't only negatively impact the people that want to take advantage of the sale, but also the people that just want to subscribe on their account with Plex. And so this is basically the answer that CCP has come up with. In discussions with the CSM, of course, this is something that has been discussed for a long time as a possible solution. And so, yeah, let's jump into the devlog. Let me chat real quick. Unless they actually find a way to make people use it less as an investment and won't use it less as an investment, it won't change anything. Yeah, that's one of the points that they addressed. That's right. They need to block the Plex by contract. 2 reasons: ISK faucets and backing out the global market. So, so the ISK trading is by contract. It's true, right? So most large Plex transactions are done via contracts among people that have, you know, built or discussed the trade on Discord or on Corp Mumbles or wherever you do your trades. And those are done via contracts, and so those are not impacted by the market at all. And those are currently also evading taxes. Right? There's basically no tax associated with trading Plex via contracts, and that's why everyone does it, especially large. If you're trading large quantities on the market, then you're basically you're doing it wrong, right? I think outside of maybe new players or people that buy that, you know, that just spend a lot of ISK on EVE without actually knowing the game very well, those people might sell it on the market. I think everyone else that does this at an industrial scale trades Plex in contracts, which is the quote unquote normal way, right? But so that is something that has been a huge point of discussion, but I can't comment on the current status of that, because, you know, this dev blog doesn't address that. this dev blog doesn't talk about specifically taxing contracts. On the other hand, if you're saying we need to tax contracts, then you need to be aware that there are a lot of other scenarios where people trade PLEX in contracts that might just not be reasonable to tax. So let's say you have more than one account and you want to move PLEX that you bought on one account to another one of your accounts. I don't think that should be taxed. Right? I don't think that's I think that's an avenue that CCP needs to think of when finding a solution to taxing contracts, right? Also, there's got to be a way within corporations and alliances to move PLEX because without paying tax, because it might be that people are being paid in it, etc., etc. So a shared PLEX vault over account is would fix that, but that's a very difficult technical solution, as far as I understand. So, but that's one thing that would fix it as well. Yeah. Let me catch up with chat here. First of all, Quark, dude, congratulations for winning that raffle. I'm going to restart the raffle here, and Quark, just send me a DM on Twitch or on Discord, and I will send you your code. Kakar, you use the market too afraid of being scammed on contracts? And on contracts, you don't have to be scammed. You just send the PLEX, receive the... It's one transaction. It's pretty risk-free. Piggybacking off Kakao, PLEX will just move to contracts if they make tax... Yeah, but PLEX is already in contracts. It is, in a big scale. No one wants to pay real world dollars to sell their PLEX for ISK, and losing another... and losing another X% to fake space sales tax. Yeah, I think taxing stuff that you've paid real world tax on is a negative. That's true. On the other hand, it's also in ISK sink, right? So nowadays it's a major ISK sink, and if for some reason you would take that away, you would need to replace it with something else or risk hyperinflation. So that's a major economic impact that you're talking about there. So it's just something to keep in mind. But I do hear you that people that buy PLEX with real cash and then turn around and sell it on the market and pay another piece of sales tax on it, that is a feel bad moment. I agree. Now, people that are trading PLEX for investment or for plexing, multiple accounts, there I feel less bad for them to pay tax, because that's actually a good way to take ISK out of the system. So I agree with in the former. I don't agree with the latter. As a single account player, contracts are my main method of moving assets. Yeah. They already keep track of all accounts on the same email. That's right. So CCP already rewards you for putting all your accounts under the same email, so it might be possible that there is a connection there and a technical solution. There are some other solutions that we're discussing that could happen. And Varak says most of my guys will just ask in Discord who's selling. Yeah, I mean on my Discord we trade a lot of PLEX and LSI and other things, and it's very, very easy to just sell your PLEX on my Discord or on another Discord. It's not very hard at all. Crota says, hey Cedar, good to see you. Crota says, this also sounds like the first step in addressing the whole hoarding of PLEX matter. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's have a look at this dev blog. Yeah. So let's see if I can make this a little bigger. Can you guys read that? Yeah. So basically, intro is EVE Online is fundamentally about creation, trade, destruction, and the friendship forged along the way. Our strategy leads into the themes. These are the 4 themes right here: ultimate science fiction, strong organization, unbridled agency, and future of war. And that's what they want to address. In this case, it's through unbridled agency in particular, we aim to support personal ambition in a hyper-capitalistic future society where players freely choose their path, express personal and group identity, and shape the universe through their actions. Player organizations run the show as on the battlefields, so on the trade fields, fully embracing the omni-progression of the sandbox MMO. So today we want to share the next chapter of economic vision for New Eden, one centered around friction-free trade, fairer access to utility goods, and the future of PLEX. As a liquid currency that powers gameplay and EVE Online's free-to-play business model. A major update to PLEX trading is coming soon, with the introduction of a global PLEX market, a new global market region integrated into the existing market, allowing capsuleers to buy and sell PLEX from anywhere in New Eden. This friction-free system aims to boost liquidity, enable a fair market equilibrium, and supports EVE's evolving economy. Test the changes on Singularity and prepare for launch. As part of the release on Tranquility, all existing orders will be cancelled and fees reimbursed. The exact date will be announced ahead of release. So that's a very, very, very relevant thing for everyone to understand, that all existing orders will be cancelled and your fees reimbursed. So I'm sure this will catch a lot of people by surprise, because a lot of people don't read dev blogs or look at Reddit or anything. So that's going to be major. So if you're, if you're the person paying attention to this in your corps, then make sure that your corp buddies and friends know. Framing the vision, a healthier economy for New Eden. The long-term goal is to ensure the EVE economy works for everyone, veterans, newcomers, and everyone in between. This means reducing artificial barriers, minimizing rent-seeking behavior. So rent-seeking as opposed to profit-seeking. If you care, this is the link to rent-seeking. They've linked it in the patch as well. I'm not going to give you an economic lesson now, but it's essentially trying to optimize stuff for yourself without creating any value for the actual economy, which is essentially the opposite of profit seeking. But in terms of theory, I'll let you guys have a read there. And improving access to goods that support your progression, convenience, and identity in the game. As stewards of New Eden's economy, CCP act as both custodian and regulator of central bank of sorts, and just like central banks in the real world, we care about economic health, access, and stability, tireless working on reducing economic friction. PLEX plays a fundamental role in this system, but over time, as discussed in previous blogs, its function has drifted. It's increasingly treated as a long-term investment or speculative asset, rather than a flexible, fluid currency meant to empower player choice. That dynamic distorts pricing, limits access, and creates artificial scarcity that benefits a few at the expense of many. So what they're saying is there's too many people hoarding PLEX for as inflation hedges and as their piggy bank, and that is hurting the convenience and creating artificial barriers for everyone else. It also has a side effect that they, of course, don't want to mention, but hoarding PLEX also hurts CCP's financials because they can't actually recognize the revenue until you use your PLEX up in Omega or in other items. So that's the point that I understand why they don't put that in here, but that's, commercially speaking, very important. Is the average amount of PLEX hoarded per user a release statistic anywhere? No, it's not. but CCP has that number, obviously. And you can see it. You can actually see it from the financials. So if I remember correctly, somebody correct me. Crota, was it 10 million? I think was it 10 million US dollars in unrealized revenue, which would cover extractors and PLEX. I think it was 10 million US dollars. So you can break it down. The last 2 years, in April, or at the end of the year, in Q4, it was $10 million. Do you think there's enough people who can actually hoard the PLEX on purpose? It's not a lot of people, but it's a very rich few people that have a lot of PLEX. And a lot is relative, but you know, certainly hundreds, I would say, yeah. But you know, also a lot is relative. So they're committed to fixing that. All right. The philosophy rooted in progression, convenience, and identity. Every change made, so blah blah. There's more philosophy. They've already made changes into that direction recently. So introducing soulbound MCT to reduce hoarding and speculation. That was a good change. Making skill books globally accessible to support new players and specializing in their chosen career. This is a very good change. I use this all the time. Taking early steps towards regulated LP trading. Yeah, it's early steps. Unlocking a path for artisans, industrialists, enabling careers and personalization via skin logos and design assets. Personally not a fan of it, but yes, it was implemented. It was implemented, I think not as well as people would have hoped, and a little bit too monetization heavy. But yeah, making select expert systems tradable on the regional market. That's a new change, but certainly welcome. Each of these steps has helped remove friction and outdated bottlenecks that no longer serve the modern EVE experience. Yes, that's correct. Friction-free trade and the value chain. At the heart of EVE, it's a player-driven economy, a web of interconnected value chains. Every feature should strive to be a part of it while being exposed to ever-present risk, from exploration and harvesting of raw materials to industrial research and production to hauling and trade to solo PvP and massive fleet fights. Every step adds value, creates emergent gameplay, and generates derived opportunities across and within that ecosystem. Rare loot for explorers, margins for industrialists, and satisfaction for the end user. Trading then drives the value exchange of labor across multiple currencies. So yes, I think this ignores the very, very biggest issue with EVE Online that I have, which is not a secret and accepted by many, but that's my issue with the value chain, is that PvP does not serve an economic purpose in EVE Online and is almost in all situations value negative. So there's almost never a reason to PvP for economic reason, which is a big miss, I think, on behalf of CCP and EVE Online. But to be honest, it's the player base that is the reason for that, because there are so many players that that are completely fine with it that CCP will never change it, because for CCP, that aspect of the game is actually very lucrative, because people paying real life money just to be able to participate in PvP, and even willingly spending even more money to just PvP rather than PvP being a money making activity on its own, is to me terrible, to me immersion breaking. But it's always been like that in EVE Online, and so CCP has created their own player base to support that. So that's not something I'm arguing against, because I think I'm in the minority of of players. So, not all goods in EVE follow the same life cycle. There are a lot of moving parts in this value exchange. Over time, we've developed internal classifications for the various types of economic objects in Unedited. Let's break it down. Player-made goods, ships, modules, boosters. Utility goods, like PLEX, skill books, MCTs, what we call PLEX adjacent. Digital goods, these represent identity and expression, apparel, logos, CCP-made skins, design elements, and singletons. Like skins, this is something that they've been, leaning in more recently. Artisan skins, but also singletons are also abyssal modules. Currencies and quasi-currencies, ISK, LP, PLEX, and skill points are not just used for trade, but also traded themselves. For sure, absolutely. Now, they give you a history lesson on PLEX, so EVE was pretty much the first game to implement a currency like PLEX. And then blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's get to the meat of it. The solution is the global PLEX market. Later this summer, we will be launching a region-agnostic market for PLEX. That means all PLEX buy and sell orders are pooled into a global region, a single virtual location accessible from everywhere, no traveling required. Bought PLEX is still delivered to your vault, no hauling needed as before. Location and standing space, listing tax and fees won't change. Trading from private structures will remain the same for now. Now, I think the last 2 points are what's put most of you in the category of I think this is nice, but it's not going to change a lot, because as long as the taxes and fees don't change, and as long as trading from private structures will remain the same, that means that most people that are trading PLEX within the forge are going to trade it in perimeter, and most people that are already using contracts are going to use contracts. And CCP knows this, right? This is not something that CCP doesn't know, but they're implementing this incrementally, right? So we know that CCP has in the past been very, very careful about making major changes, and they prefer the little slice by slice implementation. And so I think this has to be very much something to be looked at. To we'll see what the impact is for this, and if it's successful, then get ready for us to make more changes. I think that's how I would interpret it. This will make it much easier to acquire PLEX from anywhere, whether it's to buy Omega, manufacture skins, or buy anything from the Eden store, while making it much likelier that there's a competitive market for those who want to sell their PLEX, especially in smaller amount. We expect this change to boost PLEX liquidity, enable conditions that move us closer to healthy, fair market equilibrium, and encourage broader PLEX adoption across the game, reduce price disparities, and improve availability. This is a purely commercial aspect, encourage broader PLEX adoption across game. That is something that, of course, CCP also wants, because it's good for them as a business. Reducing price disparities, yeah, that will happen. Boost PLEX liquidity. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. 90% of PLEX is already traded in JITA. So if you're in JITA, this is not going to make a big difference. Where this is going to make a big difference is for those people that are in more remote regions, or maybe in nullsec, or in wormholes, where the PLEX price doesn't always follow JITA prices immediately, and the availability is much lower. So that is where this is going to actually have an impact. We recognize this change will reduce some regional arbitrage and speculation opportunities, but we believe the benefits far outweigh the drawbacks, so we will closely monitor the outcome and be prepared to adjust as needed. Hey, that was feedback I gave. The global PLEX market will be available on Singularity for testing from 1600 on June 27th to 1200 on 30th of June. Please jump in and share your feedback. You guys can jump in now to test this. Important, as part of the release to Tranquility, all existing orders will be cancelled and fees reimbursed. The exact date will be announced ahead of release, so we invite everyone to test order creation, modification, and cancellation in station structures across all New Eden on Singularity to get prepared to fully benefit from the unified market when it arrives. We believe that there are more ways to reduce overall trade friction in EVE, and we will continue to explore those. That's what I was talking about. The global market for PLEX is both a stepping stone and a learning opportunity, which always goes well together. With your feedback shared on Discord, the forums, and wherever you fly, come join the conversation. Yeah, Juris, we already discussed that fact. Most PLEX trading, I mean, globally, most of the large-scale PLEX trading is done by contracts anywhere, and definitely in Null, it's done mostly by contracts. Facilitated via corp discords or public trading discords like my Discord. So of course that is a big factor, and you know I can't tell you anything about the plans that CCP has going forward, but I can tell you that factor is something that we have very, very hotly discussed, and where I would say it's a very, very big topic and a heated discussion when we're talking about how to best go about taxing PLEX and extractor transactions. I mean, you can imagine that is a very, very it's a very touchy subject. Anytime you talk about taxing players, it has a negative implication, even though the implication isn't always per se negative, because we need some sort of ISK things, right? So I think taxes aren't equals taxes. Taxes does not equal taxes. But as I said earlier, I think we need to be careful about taxing people on items they literally just paid real life tax on, because that doesn't feel good. That's a feel bad moment. Crota says this feels like CCP separating what they see as in-game items from real money items and saying real money items should not be a source of profits. That means skill extractors are next. That's very much what it feels like, Crota. Absolutely. Yeah. I think CCP has learned as well. You know, I mean, they're implementing this on CC. They are they're asking actively for feedback. They're putting out a long dev blog. They are reading Reddit. I know this for a fact because we've already discussed Reddit feedback, and you know, all I can say is when giving CCP feedback, make sure that you do it in a constructive fashion. Make sure, do a write-up, post it on Reddit, post it on Discord. The best way to interact with CCP lately is the official EVE Discord or any other Discord that they're on. Make sure, or, through the CSM, if you want to give feedback, you can give feedback to me directly as well. I'm happy to pass that on. So, if you want to be heard, then do so. And guys, I can only reiterate this, like, CCP is listening, okay? CCP is listening. We discuss player feedback every single day with CCP, especially on facts like this. They've been communicating a whole lot more and a whole lot better with the community over the last year. You can't deny that. And so make sure that when you're posting stuff on Reddit, don't start with Rattati should be fired. Maybe start with, hey, we see what CCP has done here. This is why we think this is not a good idea. these are the parts that we do like. This is a solution that I could suggest. That is the only form that you can hope or you can expect your feedback to be heard, because everything else is just ridiculous, and that's not what adults do, right? Do you think CCP sort of don't like the concept of regional markets in totality? Crota, let's just say I've been on the I have been on the CSM for 2 years, and you know how I think about regional markets. And this is the first time where we have a very, very tiny step away from regional markets. So let's just say I'm not having my way. I think there are a lot of fans of the regional market in at CCP. I think that it's a very core aspect of EVE Online, and changing that would just at this point be way too much of a radical change that I think CCP would think that the benefits don't outweigh the drawbacks. If they made everything global, would that spread the player base out of JITA, etc.? Well, no, what you guys are talking about, I'm not talking about getting rid of regional markets in terms of like anything doesn't need to be moved. That's ridiculous. No. Like there needs to be a location for things other than PLEX. So PLEX is like your bank account. You can move money around, but a ship you can't move around. Like that needs to be there. What Crota and I are talking about is the question of should there be regional price transparency within the game client and not just outside of the game client. And I 100% think there should be. I think it's ridiculous that it's not. You live in a very advanced science fiction society where, incredibly rich capsuleers are flying massive battleships, and we can't see the price next door of a carton of milk, right? Like it's absolutely ridiculous, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The only reason it's like that is because in the early game people wanted there to be regional trading, and people wanted there to be in transparency so that people could take advantage of regional arbitrage, and that's the only reason that's in game. It's part of the meta, and so part of the fun to discover how to overcome it. Yeah. And I won't deny that it's fun and it's a good trading opportunity. And, 16 years ago, I used to be heavily into that. And I think it's a good pathway of people to discover that. So it's cool. That like it's I totally understand why it's in there and why they're not removing it. So, it's not something that I'm going to keep harping on about to them. When Eve came out, it was way more regionalized, and they have been moving away from that ever since. Yeah, well, yeah. Also in terms of power projection, you mean? Yeah, so to sum it up, what do I think? I think it's a first careful step into a new world. I think this change alone will not make a massive difference, but it's a nice quality of life change, especially for new players. So I think overall it's a net positive, of course. Hey, Lessican, good to see you. Yeah, Barack bringing in your friends, very good. So This is a good start. I think it's very, 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 very interesting to see what the next step is going to be. Because the question is, how is CCP going to address PLEX traded by contracts? That's a massive question. And are they going to turn off private structure PLEX trading? Because that just doesn't need to be there in my view. Like, I actually don't know why they didn't, why they left it in. I don't know. And I agree with Ethar that trade friction should be in the logistics and not in the visibility of prices. I think that's what you're hinting at, and that's what I agree with overall, because I think it's a more logical approach for this, other than creating virtual hurdles and friction that just doesn't make sense in an advanced society. But yeah, lore, yada yada. Okay. If all PLEX had to go through the global market, then there's a strong audit trail for PLEX, and so RMT gets a big hit. But would hit Corp's ability to pay players with PLEX? Yeah, Crota, that's a very important point. I think we absolutely need to have a way for players to be able to trade PLEX tax-free and friction-free within their own account. So the email address, like all accounts under one email address, fixes that for most. It probably doesn't for RMT, and that's a good thing, right? So like there needs to be something done on that side. I agree. Corporations, and sometimes even, let's say, NPSI, not purple shooted fleets, public all aggression fleets, also sometimes move PLEX around, but I guess they could find a way around it. Maybe it's free within the corp. I don't know if people would go that length to avoid taxation, but something like that needs to happen, and then we can move everything to this new system, because clearly it's a better system. Like a global PLEX market versus a regional PLEX market. To me, there's no question whether that's a good idea. It's a great idea. It's a really good idea. And again, something that we've been discussing for many, many, many months, if not years, with CCP. Cool. Any other questions regarding the global PLEX market? It's a dangerous step if CCP uses it to put more and more items down the global route to make the game fairer. Crota, I don't believe that CCP would do that for in-game economy items. I mean, this is clearly reserved for non-physical items, right? Virtual goods. And skill extractors would be a little weird because they seem physical, but I think skill extractors should go the same way. I think skill extractors is the same concept. All right.